right. I'd like to introduce you to 4 of the panel members here. They're all recent graduates. First we have Allison Kuhlman. I'll let them introduce themselves also and tell a little bit about what they do. But they all have graduated. I think, Allison, you were done in May?
Yep, 2011.
May last year. Vicki, December, Elena, and then I think you're still taking one class?
I'm still taking a couple classes.
Okay, but you'll be done in May.
Yep.
Right, okay. So we've got 4 people up here. All of them have jobs. Yay. Really look for. And they're here today to answer your questions. They want to tell you about how they got their jobs. I think all of them are in jobs, the areas that they enjoy. And how did they get in those areas? How did they get the experience in those areas in order to get those jobs? Feel free to ask them, how many resumes did you have to send out? How many interviews did you have to do? Because they are really in the same boat, they were in the same boat 6 months to a year ago as that you're in right now. So they're a really good resource. So with that being said, I think I'm going to start off. Allison, if you want to just introduce yourself, tell us where you work, what your job is.
Of course. My name is Allison Kuhlman. I currently work for the Woodbury Police Department. I manage a juvenile diversion program. So say that you have an offender anywhere from the ages of 13. I've had 19-year-olds before, even though that's over the legal age limit. We gave them a second chance. What I do is I manage peer court. Like I was saying, anywhere an offender from 13 to 19 years old is their first or second time offense. Depending on how many ICRs are open in their name, ICR is in police report, pretty much. Initial complaint report. Every police officer writes one whenever they initially go onto a scene. If the juvenile offender meets the criteria of the Peer Core program and also is admitting guilt and wants to learn from their offense, they are allowed into my program. Otherwise, if the juvenile has a bad report, they're not willing to admit guilt, and they don't want to learn from the harm that they've caused, we send them straight to Washington County Court. So where I came from, I graduated from here. I earned my internship at the Woodbury Police Department, and they offered me a position within like 3 months when my internship was ending. With the Peer Core program and receiving a paralegal degree, they're 2 different things, but I knew that I wanted to understand law. Unfortunately, I was a juvenile offender myself, and I had to go through a diversion program. I know, right? I had to go through a diversional program myself with Hennepin County, and so once I found out that Washington County had one, because I lived in Washington County at the time, I tried to get in as much as I could. I received my internship through a friend. I enjoy working out and going out to Lifetime, and I met a friend there named Henry. Well, Henry also had an internship at the Woodbury Police Department, but he works at the Brooklyn Park Police Department. So once I found that out, I said, Henry, I live here in Woodbury, we're working out at this Lifetime, man, I need an internship, help me out. So he went to the Woodbury Police Department, got the office manager's business card, provided it to me. I contacted her within a week. She said come in for an interview to be an intern, and I received an internship within 2 weeks. So really, I mean, yes, education and knowledge helps, but with my position and how I obtained it, it was with who I knew, not with what I knew, if that makes sense. Not what you know, it's who you know. That's what happened with me. And I think I kind of wrapped it up there about my position. I've had it, like I said, I was offered the position when my internship ended, which was in May, and I've been working there ever since. I got to be honest with you though, my position right now is on the defense because of the fact that my position is being funded through the Woodbury Police Department, but I am taking offenses from different jurisdictions, which means I'm supposed to be only taking offenses from Cottage Grove and Woodbury, but I'm taking offenses from such places as St. Paul Park, Stillwater, I've had Lino Lakes. So what's happening with my position is it might be moving to county. With any kind of government position that's created, there's always an opportunity for it to have a future or for it to be completely eliminated from the government, as we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. Well, as I said, my position is still kind of on the fence. The county is looking at taking it over, but the Woodbury Police Department so far is funding it. I kind of summed it up, Mary,
Okay.
but you'll have to look on YouTube to hear it.
No, I'm fine.
But I
can multitask.
I summed it up, but I didn't know if, does anyone have any questions before we move on to anyone else?
Well, they can ask questions of you after. Why don't we just go through everybody first and
Okay.
leave it open to questions?
So I think I'm done.
Okay.
Hi everybody, I am Vicki Shank and I'm currently working for a small law firm in Maple Grove. As Mary said, I recently just finished the program here in December, so hasn't been just too long. However, I completed my internship last summer and I immediately started looking for a job. And I'll go into more of that job search maybe later, but I just started scouring the ads, Craigslist, Indeed.com, LinkedIn. I post my resume, and I literally sent out, I don't know how many, a lot of resumes and cover letters, and I found one ad on Craigslist that was in Maple Grove, and I live in Buffalo, so that commute isn't too bad. And it was a part-time position, but I felt like, hey, it's a start, especially since I still needed to complete those 2 classes last fall. And after 4 interviews, I was offered the job. And it's a small law firm. I was hired to work in an area to assist the part-time paralegal, but the area of law was completely foreign to me. In fact, I had never even heard of it. It's fertility law.
Oh, very cool.
So when I started, the lawyer, the owner of the law firm, also owns a fertility agency, which is located in the lower level of our office. And they work with finding intended parents and matching them up with surrogates. And they go through that whole process, and once there's a pregnancy and everything's going, then the file moves upstairs and we start drafting all the pleadings, the court proceedings that have to be done in order to establish the parentage and do the adoption and all that. Because the majority of our clients are international, and so we're fortunate enough to have 4 different interpreters employed with the agency that help with the language barriers. But that was where I was hired, and like I said, I didn't know anything about it, but it sounded kind of interesting, and I thought it was a place to start. So that's where I started, and unbeknownst to me, I was walking into some drama going on within the office, and because of fairly recent events, my position has now evolved into estate planning and adoptions and probate. And so the estate planning was really a class that I enjoyed here. So for me, it's turning out to be good, because now I'm getting to do those types of cases as well. But it was kind kind of one of those situations that wasn't very fun to go to work for a while because there was so much tension, there was stuff going on in the office. And we no longer have an associate at the moment, so that kind of tells you, without going into detail, that kind of tells you a little bit of maybe what was going on. But the associate is no longer there, and neither is his full-time legal assistant. So anyway, it's opened up. I'm glad I stayed with it through the long haul. There was a time there where I was like, oh, what did I do? You know, I didn't want to be a part of that, but I stuck with it, and things are getting better now, and it's actually a good opportunity for me to advance into other areas of law as well. That's about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Elena?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Elena Case, and I just finished the program in December, and I was able to get a job in November of last year. I work in downtown in a international intellectual property boutique law firm. We only do prosecution. We don't do any litigation. The law firm has about 14 attorneys, and most of them come from different countries, from Asia, a lot. And I work for 4 attorneys. It's a lot of work, to be honest. The way I got this job, I got the job through college. As soon as I knew that I wanted to do intellectual property, I let the faculty members of this college know that I'm very interested, and if something comes up, please let me know. And so last year in October, they received a phone call from my law firm asking for recommendations. And so my name was referred, and I immediately applied. And after that, I had 3 interviews. I had a phone interview and 3 interviews. And then I had tests, like 3 or 4 tests. So there was a lot of screening, making sure that I was the right fit for this law firm. So my phone interview was very long. It was about an hour long. They were asking me so many questions. The phone interview was recorded, and they asked for my permission for that as well. And the questions were basically about who I am, like psychological questions, you know, how I deal with stressful situations, how do I measure success, why I want to do paralegal intellectual property, what do I do outside of work. So then after that, in about 2 weeks, they called me for an interview, and again, some questions were repeated, and there were 5 people sitting at the interview in downtown on the 27th floor. It was very kind of an artificial situation, just very, scary too. And also before that, I was given several tests where they wanted to make sure that my grammar is okay, that I knew something about the law firm. There was a list of information about the company, and I had to fill out blank spots so they know that I read about the company, I know where I'm going to work. So it's good that I prepared. I basically knew by heart what the website was about. So that's kind of advice, I guess, for you, that please make sure you know who you're going to work for. So there was a test about how detail-oriented I am, just little like commas or spaces. That's what was missing, and I had to notice that and mark that. So the whole procedure was probably for a month when I got a job, and it was so stressful. But finally I got the job, and I'm very glad that this all happened. It's a very professional work environment. people dress very formally. Yeah, I do get good benefits, health benefits, paid parking in downtown, and lots of support, and so that's kind of briefly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Silvia Lab, and I think I recognize most people in this room. I started at North Hennepin in 2011, and I'll be finishing in May. I work at a small law firm that's an elder law firm, and the way that I got that position is when I took the seminar, I needed an internship, and I thought it would be great to get a job at the same time as an internship. So I started looking for a job, and I sent out some resumes. I met with some recruiters, and the way that I got the job that I have is actually through a former student at NHCC. She had interned at this law firm, and they really liked her, so they had said, hey, if you have any more interns, send them our way. We actually have a part-time position available. So I applied. I went through probably 3 interviews, and I was hired. The position that I have is kind of a catch-all position. I get to learn every position in the firm. So if one of the paralegals is out, I get to fill in for them. I work closely with the firm administrator to handle their marketing. They do a really nice service to the community. They go and they give free lectures to different senior centers and different institutes that are, that serve seniors. So that's one of my favorite parts of my job is that, we're really involved in the community and we get to do that type of outreach. So yeah, it's part-time right now. They're saying that's going to move to a full-time position, and I really enjoy it. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you. At this point, I think I'd like to open it up for questions because I know that that's really what you're all sitting here asking. I got to ask this question. So why don't we do that? Open it up, and if you want to direct it at the entire panel, that's fine. If you want to focus it on one specific person, I think that's good too. But this is really an opportunity where you can find out. I think at this point you've probably gotten a generally pretty good idea of interview process can be very lengthy. Sometimes they're looking to interview somebody 3-4 times beforehand. And this is a good time to ask, what are those types of questions? How do you deal with it? How did you prepare for interviews? Things like that. So I'll open it up to anybody who wants to ask a question. Don't be shy.
What was different on each interview? I mean, that you had to take more than one interview? That they weren't getting the information?
Well, I think my experience was somewhat unique, but I'll share anyway. The first interview was with the human resource manager and the 2 paralegals that I would be working with. And I thought that was kind of strange that the attorney wasn't there, but it was actually, I was glad to have that opportunity to meet the other paralegals because I knew I would be working closely with them, and I knew that, we would have to be able to click on some level. And then my second interview was just with the human resource gal, and at that interview I also did a lot of testing, a grammar test, some legal terms, legal language or whatever you want to say test, and then I had a personality test, something called you answered a bunch of questions, and it was like the color chart test. It was, you answered a bunch of questions and then it gave you you're a whatever color, and it was crazy. I'm like, really? And then the third and the fourth time were with the attorney. Well, actually, okay, the third time was with the attorney, the fourth time was with the attorney and the paralegals again, because they they had two of us and they just couldn't decide which one. So he brought the paralegals in and brought the two of us in. But the questions that I mainly got asked were relating to how I handle certain situations, dealing with clients in particular, different, I was given different scenarios, how would you handle this? I really didn't feel like I got a lot of questions about my legal knowledge. I mean, I think they knew that I had, gone to a great school, and they weren't worried about that. They knew I was teachable as far as, their procedures and stuff. But they were really concerned about, or really wanting to know about me personally and how I handle situations and deal with relationships in the office. I don't know, that was my experience.
Yeah, for me, my first interview was a phone interview. And when I started working, I realized that there was a lot of phone work at the firm. And sometimes you're talking with people who may not have capacity, or people who are in crisis. Someone's just died, they don't know what to do, they're distraught. And so I think a lot of what the employer was trying to learn from me in the phone interview was, she threw some kind of random crazy questions at me, and I think she was just trying to measure, the stress level maybe, how I would respond, and just basically how I handled myself over the phone. Following that, there was an in-person interview with the person who I was kind of stepping into her shoes. She was moving into a full-time paralegal position. She had held my position before, and it was with her and the firm administrator. That was kind of a more orthodox interview where they have, testing and those kind of things. And then the third time I met with the founders of the law firm, and, they gave a thumbs up. So that was the process that I went through.
I didn't really go through an interview process. Like I said before, I gained my position through my internship. But when I was questioned about why I wanted the internship, I told her I was working towards my paralegal degree. I told her I didn't really want to work for a law firm. I'm not really the paralegal type. I love criminal law. I love dealing with police officers and firefighters and emergency services, and dealing with kind of the prosecution of that. Even though I work for a police department, I still deal with county. I still go to Washington County Court. I go to the juveniles who have either failed my program or who are not allowed into my program, and I go view their court hearings and what the judge decides upon them there. As far as my interview process, some of the internship questions were, why would you like to be here instead of a law firm? Why are you interested in working with the police department more than a law firm? Sort of that, they were confused as to why I was going more towards a police office more than a law firm. But when I was going into this paralegal degree, I knew I wanted to understand law, and especially employment law, because of, before I started school, I worked for a car dealership, and I used to sell high-end vehicles. And from there, I went to promotional and marketing subcontracting jobs. In fact, I just got done working the motorcycle show this weekend, because I still do those positions. But when you're a subcontractor versus an employee, I'm sure a lot of you know about the different research that goes into that. But there's a lot of differences.
Somebody looking at me.
Yeah, and when it comes, it really interests me when it came to employment law and criminal law, and where I could go with that. And so, being in a police department, it helps with my criminal law that I want to learn. But as far as learning more about law firms, yes, I'm still applying to be a part-time paralegal at law firms, but the market out there, as all of you know, it's kind of rough right now. So.
Well, just to piggyback off of what she said, I also did not see myself working in a law firm. I didn't think I would like the environment, but I was really impressed when I went to meet the people at this firm in how their law firm operated. I was impressed that it was family owned and run, and a lot of people have been there for a long, long time. I was impressed with the commitment that they had to community service and really, reaching out to not just their clients, but, the entire community. So that was something that helped me to make up my mind.
So how much satisfaction do you feel that with helping people in the law firms that you work with? Do you feel a great deal of satisfaction that you actually are making a difference in people's lives?
Oh, I do, absolutely. I absolutely do, because sometimes, a lot of times we're working with vulnerable adults. We're working with people, who may need help navigating, things like medical assistance, veterans benefits, which can be kind of complex. And, at that stage in your life when you're sick or when you're, kind of destitute or whatever your situation is, and you have someone to help you through that process, I think that's great.
And in my case, it's awesome because the surrogacy cases, these are people that have been trying to have a baby, and it's amazing. They always come, even the international ones. They always come to the office a couple times after the birth and bring the baby or babies, and I mean, we have pictures all over of us with the babies. I mean, it's an awesome feeling when it's all said and done.
Well, and for me, probably in intellectual property law, I want to say that maybe to some extent I feel that I'm a part of this process, how the idea gets born and then it becomes reality, with the help of professional, experienced, talented patent attorneys and their legal support staff. So it's kind of interesting too.
I get phone calls from parents all the time about how satisfied they are, either that they went through my program, or I get phone calls from parents saying, "What the H is your problem? Why'd you fail my kid?" And it's like, your kid's not admitting guilt. They don't want to confess to what they did. They don't want to learn from their harm. They don't want to move on with their life. They don't want to succeed. And so if I'm not going to teach them to it, I know that Washington County Court will. So that's where I'm coming from. But there's still a lot of happy stories of juveniles who have succeeded through my program, and now they're off to college. So, yeah.
Michael?
So I guess it just gets kind of personal no matter what area of law you're working in. You just have to dig in and let loose on it. Is that about it?
I would say that everyone would agree with me as far as confidentiality is key, but we all get satisfaction out of our positions.
How much did you have to demonstrate your, I guess, I don't know if charitability would be the right word, but your eagerness to volunteer or help out or community involvement before you were able to get into this position?
3 months internship, and then they offered me a job.
Okay.
So I had to prove myself that I could run the program and that I could manage juveniles.
Well, for me, I was able to make a connection. I'm a native Minnesotan, but I lived in Chicago for several years. And when I moved back here, I helped my grandmother a lot. She's 80 years old, and she needed a lot of assistance. And for me, I made that personal connection and definitely talked about that in my interviews. And I think that probably helped to demonstrate that. Of course, though, you have to be careful, but you have to walk a kind of a fine line, because what they're giving or what they're selling is knowledge and their ability to help people. And so you also have to be aware that a lot of people may want to take advantage of that. They may want to get legal advice for free, or they may try to push you into giving them information that they really should be talking to an attorney about and paying for. So, your firm or wherever you work will probably guide you and how to, how to best handle that. But it's, for me, it was kind of awkward at first discussing, fees when I have somebody on the phone who's, completely, devastated. They're, maybe their parent or their spouse just passed away, but you do have to have sometimes difficult conversations with people about, how these services get paid for.
For me, I get without asking me specifically about my religion. I was questioned about how I felt about the whole surrogacy and in vitro fertilization, and as well as the fact that some of our international clients are gay couples. And so it was very important that they feel me out on my views about that, because that's what I was being hired, the area I was being hired to work in. So that was kind of interesting, the way they went about asking that without actually saying, sit against, it, never.
Any other questions?
Well, because of the kind of market that we're in and it's so difficult, if you have a particular area of law that you're interested in and you want to develop that as your field of expertise, could anybody just talk about that a little bit? I mean, is that a good way to go? Or you kind of sawing off your opportunities? I don't know. Just
Trying to say, should you focus or should you stay
yeah,
broad?
by focusing on that, are you losing out? Or are there benefits? Are you losing out? How do you feel about that? You think it's a good idea? You think it's not a good idea? Or?
I think it's a good idea if you really decide as soon as possible, I think, and kind of focus yourself on finding that network of people, maybe, and finding more about love.
I agree.
But also I think you do need to keep your options open. I mean, you need a place to start. You may not start in, I don't know, I guess I'm just thinking about my experience. Like I said, I didn't know anything about that area of law. I didn't even know there was such an area of law. But it was a start for me, and it's led into further opportunities. I did discuss the fact that eventually someday I wanted to work in estate planning, which is now one of the areas I've been given to do too. So he knew that, but I don't know, just unless I haven't looked at the job opportunities, lately or whatever, but back when I was looking, I mean, if I would have limited myself to only apply for positions that were for estate planning, it would have been very limited.
I apologize if this is a repeat question, but are any of you MPA members, or did that help post-grad, or have you gone to the sectionals since, or has there been any pressure one way or the other out in the field about the idea of paralegal certification or the continuing education?
I was at one last week. There was an MPA intellectual property section downtown. I went there just because it was a sectional devoted to the paralegals, legal assistants who are just new to this area. So I decided I would go and check it out, and a lot of it I already knew what they were talking about, but when I told my case manager and my partner that I'm going there, they were very pleased to hear that, and it's kind of important to show sometimes that, you don't just come to work, you want to educate yourself as much as possible too. So, but I went to Faegre & Benson. It was a nice opportunity to see what Faegre & Benson is, a large, huge law firm. And there's an attorney that works that I know from my past, and I emailed her just saying I'm gonna be at your law firm, you know, just wanna stop by and say hi. So that was another networking opportunity for me, just for future. Who knows, you know? So, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an MPA member. I'm a future MPA member, but but I have found that it's very important to employers that you have training and that you have that certification. A lot of employers are having their experienced paralegals. They're helping them go to school or giving them flex time so they can go to school and get that training and get that certificate. It's becoming, I think, more and more important to employers when they're giving you the title of paralegal that you have some training.
Now, are you talking about the paralegal certificate that you would earn, like
Yeah.
here at this institution, or are you talking about, well, there's also like,
Yeah,
the
the
PACE,
test.
the
Yeah.
PACE, and then there's also like some sort of core competency exam, is that the
Right.
same thing?
The core
or-
competency exam
Yeah.
is brand new.
And I think that the actual, like what we're getting here, the paralegal certificate, is kind of viewed as more substantive than the testing. A lot of experienced paralegals just go and take the test and they get certified, and that's acceptable. That's great. But I am seeing that, or I did see, in my interviews, that there was a lot of satisfaction when you were able to tell them, yeah, I have a paralegal certificate from an ABA approved school.
Vicki, I have a question for you, because I remember you were gonna do your internship
Yes,
at the prosecutor's
I
office.
did, yes.
And how did that go, and how does that,
I
does that
loved
relate
it.
at all to what
It
you're
was
doing right
great.
now?
No, doesn't relate at all to what I'm doing right now. But yeah, I completed my internship last summer and as I said, I live in Buffalo, so I was looking locally, and I had a friend who is the victim coordinator, victim advocate, whatever you want to, whatever her title is, with the Wright County prosecutor, and she put in a good word, and they only have one paralegal and then a whole bunch of legal secretaries who actually do a lot of paralegal work, but anyway, and I had a great experience there, loved it. They really liked me and were sad to see it was done and over so fast, and we were all so sad on my last day, and but I mean, they don't have any openings, so it wasn't a position that I was gonna stay in permanently. However, it was just a great learning experience. Just about, well, it kind of did relate, I guess, learning about court procedures, That's one thing. Here it seemed like in school you learn all these areas of law, but I don't really recall like walking through the procedural steps that the court requires, So that did help. And the other thing that really helped is they were great references. And the county attorney did an exit interview with me, gave me some pointers, some good tips as I went out to apply for jobs. So yeah, I was just really, and had it in my head I was going to keep all my options open and just go with, whatever I could find just to get started.
Just to go back to what we were saying about focusing, I think that if you do have an area of law that you really enjoy, it's probably best to try and set your goals in that direction, because every area is so specialized, and the experience that you get is very specialized for whatever type of law that you're working in. So I would say that if there's something particular that you want to do, just have those goals set out so that you're staking out that particular opportunity.
I think you can do both, really. If you're going to take a broad amount of courses while you're here, and you can choose courses that give you a broad education. But of course, if you're interested in family law, you're going to want to take family law while you're here. But then in maybe your volunteer work or your internship, you try to seek out that particular area of interest to see if it's really where you want to continue. Because even if you have an internship at a family law firm, if you ultimately end up getting a job at a wills firm, they're still going to know that you know how to organize a file, that you know how to use the docketing system that the particular law firm has, and that you're generally a good worker. They're always going to expect that all of you have I think it was said, a good legal education, but they also want to know that you've got the skills just to deal in an office appropriately. And I think you can do both. You know, if you've got those skills and you've got the broad education, and maybe you've narrowed it a little bit with your internship choices or your volunteerism choices, that you really can focus on getting the job in the area you're interested in, but at the same time you're leaving your options open. If you can't find something in that area, maybe you pursue something else. Your first job is probably not going to be where you're going to spend the rest of your life. I've had lots of jobs. And only now am I in the one I truly love. So you know, remember that. You're going to gain skills, but at every job I had, there were things I loved and things I hated. And the things I loved, I carried those skills on to each job. And you got to look at, there's going to be rewards in everything. And you're gaining new experiences. Other questions?
I have a question about the interview process. Several of you mentioned that you were given certain hypothetical situations and how you would react. Was there anything in your educational background that helped you with that, or did you find that you just had to wing it on the spot and it came out of left field?
Personal experience, dealing with people. I mean, really, I don't know, you know.
Like, can you give us an example of one of those situations that they wanted to throw you in and say, how would you react? Because I've been in interviews before that when you're sitting there and they throw you this situation and your mind just cranks.
The attorney that I work for occasionally has the problem of procrastinating to review documents that we've drafted, and so they tend to sit there for a couple days till we get after him, and he's well aware of it and doing his best to remedy that. But one of my questions was, so, you know, you have a client that has been waiting to see the drafts of his will, and you have not been able to send them to him because the attorney needs to review them before you send them off, and he has failed to do that. You've done your part. The client calls and is very upset. You know, how do you deal with that? And of course, he didn't want to hear that you tell the client, well, the attorney's been sitting on him for 3 days. You know, he wanted to know how you would handle that phone call.
What'd you say?
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Gave the call to the attorney.
I won't take calls like that. I don't remember how I responded. I'm sorry, I really can't really remember. I probably said something like that we are in the process of completing the documents and getting them reviewed, and we will, you know, get them to you as soon as possible. It's on our to-do list. I mean, I don't know what I said. I can't remember, but.
So
It's always good to tell them that you're investigating. You know, you'll look into it. I'm sorry you haven't received them. I'll certainly look into right now, find out where they are in the process of being reviewed, and then I can give you a call back and let you know. And then you go into the attorney's office and you say, you know, so-and-so called and they're wondering where their wills are, or is there something I can tell them or give them a date? They sound kind of angry. You're just conveying it. I mean, I'm an attorney. If somebody came in and told me that, I'd say, yeah, I know, I'm over, you know, I got way too much going on, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but yeah, I'll put that one at the top of the list to look at. Because you don't want an angry client. That's how I would handle it.
given how, with that, in addition to that hypothetical, what do you think for each of you during the interview process? Like, what was the question that kind of gave you that deer in the headlights moment that you weren't necessarily prepared for, that kind of?
What motivates you?
How do you measure success?
Like, I don't know, what does motivate me? I wasn't expecting it, I guess, and I hadn't.
Yeah, at each interview I had a question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and why do you want to work in intellectual property, and why you want to work for us? That was asked at each interview, yes. And they did check my profile on LinkedIn before I came there. I saw that the HR person visited my page. Just
Are they expecting you to have, what do you call it, social media, you know, to be into that sort of thing? I've heard that's how, some companies aren't even looking at resumes anymore. They go online and vet you that way.
No.
Is that something that,
I
I mean,
think
we
so.
should all be expected to be participating in that?
Of course.
Oh, God.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that my LinkedIn profile looks presentable before, you know, I applied, and I, you know, my Facebook was, you know, closed too for viewing. And
Did you put a picture from 10 years ago on there, or?
You don't need to.
she's so beautiful now.
Do you guys, when you say you have a LinkedIn account, do you pay for the monthly, or do you just use the basic free LinkedIn?
Just the basic.
Okay.
But you know, that goes both ways. If you know who's interviewing you, you can also investigate them. And you can also investigate the firm and the people that you're going to be working with, so that you know you can, drop little nuggets into your conversation when you're interviewing. It can help.
Yeah, and that's what I did too. You know, that HR person that interviewed me over the phone. So of course, I Googled her too, and all I could see that her Facebook profile, and she had a lot of pictures with roses. So when I sent her a thank you card, I wanted to make sure that it had that yellow rose, and she kept that card.
That's another
Oh, that's
thing,
good.
now that you mention that. I think it's really important to send those thank yous.
Handwritten.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I spent probably around $40 on thank you cards.
Yeah.
To all these people.
It leaves a lasting impression.
I just sent an email, thank you, and I got my second interview 5 minutes after I sent that email. So I think that, it is important.
I'd say this thing that scared me during my interview process was the fact that they were going to background check me and fingerprint me. But if you're ever applying for any kind of government agency, they're going to do that no matter what. And if you have something on there, you have to be 100% honest about it. I mean, there were 2 things on my record that I knew that they would find, and that I had to be honest about. And I remember my commander came up to me, he's like, hey, like after a couple weeks of working there, he's like, did you have a little problem after you got your license? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you had 6 speeding tickets at once. And I'm like, yeah, I had a couple sports cars when I was younger, and he's like, yeah, I could tell. But being completely honest about yourself and who you are as a person with your employer is definitely key.
I guess the question I had earlier, though, was, is it important that everybody have something online, that we're on LinkedIn? I mean, is that such a big deal? I kind of shy away from that sort of thing because I feel like it's an invasion of my privacy, quite frankly, and I don't want to engage in that kind of stuff, but is it important that I do that nevertheless? Should I?
You don't have to put a picture of yourself if you're not comfortable, you know. But I think nowadays it's kind of it's important. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it's probably very individual. It's like from law firm to law firm, or because nobody checked anything where I applied. You know, I have a LinkedIn. I don't have a picture or anything, but you know, I kept checking to see if they had looked at my profile, and they hadn't. And in fact, he discourages any, like when on my LinkedIn for my email contact, he wants just the person, he doesn't want the office email listed. So, you know, he doesn't want us checking it and updating it and all that at work. But I don't know, I think it's probably very individual. If you're in a larger law firm, if you're going to a larger law firm, yeah, they probably check all that stuff to see.
I will tell you from my personal experience, I contacted all of these ladies through LinkedIn. Allison doesn't watch hers as much, but she eventually replied. But it's an easy way. I've got that. It's really, the old-fashioned Rolodex. That's my new Rolodex. Is LinkedIn. So if I know I need so many board members on this topic, I can go to my LinkedIn and look at them. I've got legal recruiters in LinkedIn. I've got former students. I have current students. I have people, like these folks who just graduated who I think, oh, they're perfect people. It reminds me immediately, okay, yeah, I can call Elena because I know that she's working in IP and people are interested in that area and she'd be a good board member or a good person to come up here. So I think it's really useful for that purpose. I also have gotten requests from recruiters who will look at my contact list and say, can you introduce me to so-and-so in your contacts? And then they contact maybe that student or that graduate because they see that they're working, say, at 3M and they want to contact them because maybe they want to see if they're interested in another job. You don't have to put your whole life in there. I'm not in Facebook. I don't want any part of Facebook. I love all you guys, but I don't want your friend in me. I don't really need to open my kids' pictures up to everybody. I don't have any interest in doing that. But LinkedIn is just professional. I have a friend who said, Twitter is the water cooler, LinkedIn is the boardroom, and Facebook is the bar after work. And so what you really want to do is, limit yourself. Maybe you don't want to get into social media, but I think if you do LinkedIn and you just keep it purely professional, I put where I work in there, where I've worked in the past. You can put details in there if you want to. Professional associations you're involved in, your educational background. You can fill in as much or as little as you want. And you can you can elect to show your contacts or not. So it's really up to you how much you want to do it, but I think it is a good resource to have those connections. It also, the thing that I like about it is if somebody updates their page, if they move to another law firm, you don't lose their email address. You can always contact them in LinkedIn. And that's a nice advantage as well. Other questions?
I have a question for you, Yelena. The intellectual property, that seems to be a kind of a hot area and supposedly one of the higher paying areas and stress and all that stuff. Did the job turn out to be what you thought it was going to be? Do you work on billable hours and do you work more than 40 hours a week?
I work 37.5 hours a week. I am paid.
Well, I don't need to know that.
No, I'm not. I'm paid hourly, but I don't really have to clock in, clock out. So it's kind of I submit my timesheet next week, and I'm always there for 37.5 hours, sometimes even more.
So is a lot of the stress coming from the fact that you're working with 4 attorneys?
Yes, very much so, and I am probably the busiest. I work as a legal assistant right now. So as I was told that I'm the busiest legal assistant there, and it's true. It's non-stop working, just non-stop.
Why are you looking at me?
But it's okay, I'll be patient, and one day I'll be a paralegal, and I will be enjoying sitting in my cubicle and so doing my stuff. So yeah.
And kind of for all of you, did the job turn out to be what you were led to believe it was going to be during the interview process or the posting process, or did it veer off into all sorts of directions once you started? Well, I know different.
Yeah. My job was pretty true to the description. I do exactly, what we talked about in the interview. So.
I'm just glad I get a lot of help from my case manager. She's there to help me, and that's important. Associates are very kind to me too, and that's what keeps me going. And yeah.
Starting out, mine was exactly what I was told it was going to be. you know, and like I said, just due to recent events, now it's evolved into even more, which has opened more opportunities up for me.
I first started doing background checks and like looking at the outcome of their cases and permits to carry. That's what I first started doing at the police station, was kind of like the administration work for officers and being their assistant. And then once we heard that the officer who managed the juvenile program was leaving to have a baby and she had to tend to her husband who was having some health problems, they said, hey, you got a paralegal degree, why don't you manage this juvenile diversion program? And so they trained me how to do it, and I managed it as an intern for about 2 months, and then they offered me the position. So yeah, after getting into it, I knew what was expected of me.
Did you have some other kind of training that, about the youth program, or was that completely new to you?
It was completely new to me as far as running one, but going through one, I knew what I had to do. I have personal experience, yes. I knew what I had to do as a juvenile to complete a juvenile diversion program. But then once I had the opportunity to manage one, I knew what I as a juvenile had to go through and what my probation officer had to go through. The juvenile diversion program manager, I'm juggling the hats of administrator, paralegal, psychologist to try to find out why this juvenile is offending and if it's coming from their parents because of poor parenting skills. And I'm also being a probation officer. I'm going to those middle schools or those high schools and giving them UAs. I'm going there and making sure their grades are up. I'm going there and making sure that they're participating in extracurricular activities, or making sure they're not getting in trouble, or doing locker checks, things like that.
How's your caseload? Are you overwhelmed?
Right now, I have 4 serving juveniles. 2 of them are middle schoolers and 2 of them are high schoolers. One of them is in an alternative school. And I'm fine right now. Actually, ever since I've managed the program, the juvenile offenses have gone down. And my program has become more aware in Washington County. And so when middle schoolers or offenders or volunteers or juveniles see me walking through their school, they're like, something's going down today. Because Washington County's here, and someone's in trouble, or someone's going to peer corps. When people see me, they know that something's going down, but they don't know what it is. But, I love my authority, I'll put it that way. Yeah. So, did I answer your question? Okay.
And you said you looked at Craigslist and LinkedIn, and where was the third place you looked?
Me?
No, I thought it was Allison.
No.
Okay.
No, I received mine through word of mouth, through a friend.
Indeed.com.
Indeed. Career Builders, I've looked on that one. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another one.
Because paralegal is considered administrative support, have any of you heard anything about the idea of union representation, or with your own positions, has it been that if you want to try to talk about, well, you've been there and this is what you feel that you're worth, are you very much on your own out there as far as representation or looking out for you?
Well, I would say that because there is, there's no union, or I would say that you're on your own.
So there's no ASHME or anything?
No, there's nothing like that. That was one of the points that I did want to make, is just to be aware of the type of environment that you're choosing to work in and make sure it's a good fit for you. I like the firm that I work in because the senior partners make coffee and the paralegals give presentations and everybody pitches in, and there's a real lack of ego, and it's very, it's very collegial, I guess. It's if something needs to get done, it doesn't really matter who's doing it as long as the clients are happy and they keep coming back, and everybody kind of pitches in. So I would say just, pay attention to the environment when you're going on interviews and make sure it's a good fit for you.
So none of you have yet to end up having to go in and renegotiate on your positions?
Not yet. I've only been at my position for, I think, a little less than 6 months, so.
What I was saying before, when I was speaking, people were kind of coming in at the time, so people couldn't really hear me, but my position right now is funded through the Woodbury Police Department. Well, I've been taking on cases from other jurisdictions, such as Stillwater, Lino Lakes, St. Paul Park, Cottage Grove. And the Woodbury Police Department says, we can't pay for you to manage other jurisdictions' juvenile offenders. And I said, well, they're coming through the program, they're not going to Washington County. He said, well, that's benefiting Washington County, and they need to know that. So right now, my job is up in the air as far as Woodbury Police Department still funding it and Washington County taking it over. Because right now, I'm benefiting the high schools and the middle schools of Washington County with their offenders, first or second time offenders, who are senior on their hockey team who is looking to get scouted somewhere, but he got caught with weed. Okay, well, by passing my program, he's not going to have a record. So my record is not only benefiting the school, the juvenile, but it's benefiting the county because the county doesn't have to deal with the case file. Well, like I said, my job's kind of up in the air and debatable as far as who's going to keep paying me after June 1st and who's going to administer the program. Now, we're talking to Washington County about administering the program, but we're also talking to YSB about administering the program. Has anyone heard of YSB in this room? YSB is called the Youth Service Bureau. It's in Washington County, it's in Stillwater, Woodbury, and there's a location in Cottage Grove, and what they do for juveniles is they offer AA classes, or they offer theft classes, fire classes, alcohol awareness classes, drug awareness classes, and as one of their reparations, as part of my program, when they're on probation for as long as they're on for with me, they might have to go to YSB and go take some of their classes. So YSB might be taking over the program also. But like I was saying before, with any kind of government position and creating a new job, like what they did for me, it's very iffy as far as if it's going to keep lasting. And I mean, the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen the job market decrease, and a lot of people in the government losing their positions. The chief of police, the city administrator, and the county attorney will all be frowned upon if this program goes away. So from what I've heard, this program isn't going away. We just don't know who's going to take it over.
So Allison, if let's say Washington County takes over your program,
Yep.
will that move you into the same position, the management position over the program, and allow you to work with more juveniles and get, say, maybe become the manager or supervisor over a team of other youth coordinators?
You got it, girl.
I'm
You got it, girl.
I'm with you, because I've done that, and
Yep.
I've worked with Ramsey County probation for juveniles on probation. So
Yep.
I'm with you.
Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for will happen, is that because with Washington County, I have a lot more jurisdiction, I got a lot more juveniles to manage, and I'm gonna need a team to help manage all these case files. Girl, I got you. All right. You wanna come to Washington County?
I'll put on my LinkedIn page.
Okay. But I don't update it. Remember, Mary called me out. I got my card. All right. Yes, that is what I'm hoping for. That will happen. Hopefully, Pete Orpit, who is the county attorney, will realize that I need to be a part of his program. So.
Well, we're like 10 minutes over than I told
Sorry.
these folks I would stay.
Sorry,
But it was,
guys.
no, it's not, I just don't want to keep you too long because I really appreciate you coming to speak here tonight. If you have other questions that you want to maybe direct, if you feel very comfortable staying a little bit for some questions, if you're not, that's fine. I understand that you've got responsibilities too this evening. But we really appreciate you coming here, and let's give it a little love.